Bruce Keller. I'm here to tell you the truth, the proven truth about what is really going on throughout the world, and especially in the United States of America.
Good evening, London. Allow me first to apologize for this
emergency channel.
I do, like many of you, appreciate the comforts of everyday routine, the security of the familiar, the tranquility of repetition.
Bloody hell.
I enjoy them as much as any bloke. But in the spirit of commemoration, whereby those important events of the past, usually associated with someone's death or the end of some awful bloody struggle, are celebrated with a nice holiday, I thought we could mark this November the 5th, a day that is sadly no longer remembered, by taking some time out of our daily lives to sit down and have a little chat. There are, of course, those who do not want us to speak.
Just let me think.
I suspect even now orders are being shouted into telephones, and men with guns will soon be on their way.
It's Chancellor Sutler.
Damn it!
Why? Because while the truncheon may be used in lieu of conversation, words will always retain their power. Words offer the means to meaning, and for those who will listen, the enunciation of truth. And the truth is, there is something terribly wrong with this country, isn't there?
You designed it, sir. You wanted it foolproof. You told me every television in London.
Cruelty and injustice, intolerance and oppression. And where once you had the freedom to object, to think and speak as you saw fit, you now have censors and systems of surveillance coercing your conformity and soliciting your submission.
We need cameras.
How did this happen? Who's to blame? Well, certainly there are those who are more responsible than others, and they will be held accountable. But again, truth be told, if you're looking for the guilty, you need only look into a mirror. I know why you did it. I know you were afraid. Who wouldn't be? War, terror, disease. There were a myriad of problems which conspired to corrupt your reason and rob you of your common sense. Fear got the best of you, and in your panic you turned to the now High Chancellor Adam Sutler. He promised you order, he promised you peace, and all he demanded in return was your silent, obedient consent.
Inspector, you're almost through.
Last night, I sought to end that silence. Last night, I destroyed the Old Bailey to remind this country of what it has forgotten. More than 400 years ago, a great citizen wished to embed the 5th of November forever in our memory. His hope was to remind the world that fairness, justice, and freedom are more than words. They are perspectives. So if you've seen nothing, if the crimes of this government remain unknown to you, then I would suggest that you allow the 5th of November to pass unmarked. But if you see what I see, if you feel as I feel, and if you would seek as I seek, then I ask you to stand beside me 1 year from tonight, outside the gates of Parliament, and together we shall give them a 5th of November that shall never, ever be forgotten.
The fiction movie, V for Vendetta, is about a possible future social order in England. Truth is stranger than fiction, as the saying goes. However, after watching this fine movie, I'll have to modify that by saying truth is stranger than most fiction. Today, the truth is so strange, so unbelievable, and so hidden that many don't know it. Others hide from it because it is so hurtful to know. Only a small portion of the truth people hide from is leaked through the media. For the most part, people sit at their TV in a trance, thinking that will inform them about what is happening in the world. They suck into their minds a cesspool of lies and disinformation. While art imitates real life, real people often imitate art. Before we cover the documented evidence about the strangeness of what is actually happening and how dangerous that is to you and your family, let's examine some of what the character with the mask, V, said in the movie. He said, "There is something terribly wrong with this country." And I say to you now nearly the same. There is something terribly wrong with this country for more reasons than many of you know. You will know more as you watch this DVD, and you will also see suggested solutions to the problems. While there are some ideas presented in the fiction movie I could never agree with, I value the perspectives of fairness, justice, and freedom. In the USA today, those perspectives are being gradually stolen from the American people by a diabolical system of social engineering. Torture is being shown as supposedly good. Justice has been stripped from many of our courts, and freedom is being slowly choked off from the people. Now, I've spoken to you a proven truth. Let us begin by witnessing gun confiscation in New Orleans.
New Orleans, where today authorities stepped up their efforts to empty the city. Bob Woodruff is there again tonight with an extraordinary human drama unfolding. Bob?
That's true, Elizabeth, and good evening from New Orleans. Here, the police and the National Guard find themselves in a very difficult position tonight to try to carry out an order to force people from the city without actually using force.
Today in New Orleans, they got a lot tougher on the holdouts.
Police department, anyone home?
Not only the flooded areas, but New Orleans' driest and wealthiest neighborhoods, too.
Police department!
The police and National Guard going street by street, house to house.
We need to make sure, too, that whenever we knock on doors, people refuse to leave. We need to make note, call it in.
They say there are no orders to use force, just strong persuasion, sometimes entering open houses with guns drawn, and instructions to disarm anyone inside.
You say guns will be taken? No one will be able to be armed. We will take all weapons.
That happened today in this wealthy neighborhood where homeowners had armed themselves to protect their mansions. Residents were handcuffed on the ground. In the end, police took their weapons but let them stay in their homes.
They were a little bit threatened because our weapons were bigger than their weapons.
For many of the police and guard troops, it is an uncomfortable job to do this in an American city. This guard unit occupied a church, using it as a base camp. They had to leave a note because they could not get hold of the pastor to get permission.
It is surreal. Yeah, you never expect to do this in your own country.
Chris Montgomery says he'd rather be in Iraq than patrolling American neighborhoods.
Walking up and down these streets, you don't want to think about the stuff that you're going to have to do if somebody pops around the corner.
Be shooting American.
Yeah.
Police were ordered to remove people by force if necessary. KTVU's Ken Wayne rode along with a unit of the California Highway Patrol and witnessed some residents putting up a fight. He joins us now from New Orleans. Ken.
Dennis, California Highway Patrol has about 100 officers here, including 20 of them from the Bay Area, and they were out on the streets of New Orleans today urging the few residents that remain to evacuate. But not everyone wanted to go. Officers found an elderly woman on Magazine Street. She had stayed behind with her 2 dogs and refused to come out. Officers finally got into the house and found the woman was armed with a handgun and a knife.
You're going to have to shoot me because I'm not going.
We're not going to do that.
Well, I don't want you in here.
We're not going to do that.
I don't want you in here, period.
You
got a gun. Relax, man. Relax, man. Knife.
You son of a...
We're just trying to help you, ma'am.
Well, it's their house, it's their home, and a lot of people, especially the older people, they have dogs, and it's like their loved ones. And they're scared they're going to lose their house and lose their dogs, so we probably all protect our own stuff.
Have a seat and relax for a minute.
No, I'm sitting on my
take care of your dogs.
porch. Let me sit on the porch.
That woman was finally loaded onto a military cargo truck, taken to the convention center, and then to be processed, taken by helicopter to the New Orleans airport, and to be set up to where she could find a safe place to be. She was allowed to bring her 2 dogs along with her, but of course officers kept the gun and the knife. But it's an indication of what highway patrol officers and police from all over the nation are finding as they assist New Orleans police and Louisiana State Police in trying to evacuate this city. Dennis, Julie?
Ken, it's obvious they're going to use physical force to remove someone who does not want to go. The obvious question now is, would they use deadly force?
Well, I don't think so, Dennis. I mean, here you had a woman with a gun. She's elderly. She doesn't appear to be a threat, but a gun is a gun, and officers certainly had the option, you would think, in using deadly force. They're not kicking down doors. They're not dragging people from their homes, but in this case, the woman had a gun, so that is a bit of a different scenario. In the other cases we saw, and there were dozens of other people who were removed, most came out willingly. A few grumbled about it, didn't want to come out, but officers basically talked them into coming out. But they're knocking on doors, and if nobody answers, they're not kicking the doors to go in.
And Ken, are they basically operating day by day, the members of the CHP? Have they indicated where they might go next?
They're fanning out through the city. This area was called Irish Canal along Magazine Street and some of the neighborhoods there. So they're going door to door, and they're checking the residences. If they find anything, perhaps a dead body or something like that, they will mark that location. But they're basically just trying to get everybody out of those neighborhoods. They're fanning out across the city. It's not only the 100 California Highway Patrol officers who are doing this. There are officers from all over the country here.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
Let's read the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So, the security of our freedom is dependent, to some extent, upon the right to keep and bear arms. When they take away that right, the people lose the security of a free state. Let's define and discuss 2 words: conspiracy and theory. To conspire is to plan an unlawful act in secret. A conspiracy is an agreement among conspirators. The definition of the word theory is an explanation of observed facts. A fact is something that exists or occurs. To illustrate fact versus theory, if you and I were standing outside at noon on a sunny day, both of us with our rational minds and eyesight intact, we would agree that the fact is that it's daytime. It would not be considered by either of us to be a theory. The fact is, guns were confiscated in the New Orleans area during 2005. Where there were no floodwaters, and the people whose firearms were taken from were law-abiding citizens. The fact is, the U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Why else would the President and all other officials be bound by oath to support it? So, we can conclude that the confiscation of firearms in the New Orleans area was unlawful. The fact that more than one person was involved in those unlawful acts, and that more than one person conspired to direct those acts, is obvious. There were National Guard and California State Police involved. So it was a conspiracy. We witnessed conspiracy fact, not theory. As we go forward with more facts, it's essential to keep in mind the difference between theory and fact. However, theories are of varying weight. Some theories come about because of little or weak evidence. Other theories are more powerful and are the result of hard evidence. When many pieces of hard evidence point to the same conclusion, it becomes proven fact. For your own protection and that of your family, you need to find out if what I'm going to tell you right now is true. I'll tell you how to check on my statements in a moment. Most vaccines are very dangerous. People are told that children must receive them to attend school. That is not true. There is no law in the U.S. You can refuse, but you must submit a form. Children are being stolen from their parents by the state throughout the country. You must learn of your rights so you are able to protect your family. Far too many people are being arrested all over this country and handled by a corrupted judicial system. You must learn of your rights so you can protect yourself. This corruption, with a profit-making slave-based prison system, is expanding. There is a proposed resolution for Huerfano County. This, when implemented, will help to protect you from the 3 potential problems I just mentioned, and many others. At home or in the library, look at the website SciCouncil.com. Click at Save the County. There you will see exactly what evidence can be found for what I've just said, and how to get the Huerfano County resolution implemented. Coming up now is a short video clip. You will witness both fact and theory. After the clip, I'm going to dissect both the fact and the theory that are contained in it.
In Oakland, and Marines have come in for Operation Urban Warrior, what should be deemed Operation Desensitization of the Population. And they have their role players, they have their fake camps set up, you name it. We're going to take you in and show you what's happening.
Attention, attention, attention. American forces are here to help. Remain calm. We will not tolerate civil disobedience. Attention, attention, attention. American forces are here to help. Please remain calm. We will not tolerate civil disobedience.
I've made 2 documentary films about the police state and been to dozens of these military training operations where they hire hundreds of role players to beg and scream, "We're Americans, please don't put us in camps, don't take our guns."
As a hostile act. The technologies are what makes you nauseous. In the past, in a situation like that, she might have been shot. In the future, we want to give our Marines non-lethal options where they can say, no, she's not armed, maybe threatening, but I don't want to kill her, or I don't want to kill him, or them. Use your sound wave rifle, I guess you could call it, and down they go.
Yeah, him in prison, huh?
Now you're going to see an execution.
Okay, these guys have plastic handcuffs available.
Well, I think
terrorism is being practiced on the residents of the city of Oakland, because many of the retired teachers, retired military people have informed me that they understand what's going on, and it is not anything that relates to humanitarian training whatsoever. This is a psychological, as we in the research community say, this is a psyops. They're preparing people for what is coming, not what is being presented today.
So you're saying they're preparing people to accept it with incrementalism?
That is correct. Like the old frog example. You know, you put the frog in the water and you just gradually continue to raise the heat on the water until the frog is cooked. That's the way it works.
The video you just witnessed contained fact and theory. No crime was committed. No one was actually kept in a camp. No guns were confiscated. No one was hurt. The participants were actually military, and there were volunteer role-playing American civilians. The theory presented by the man interviewed was that the purpose of the exercise was to get people ready for what is to come. The U.S. military was practicing placing law-abiding Americans in camps and executing some of them. In the video coming up, you may pause at the documentation and note the details. Then go to a library or the internet and check for authenticity.
Here's an article from February 2002 as we make this documentary. Marines are occupying multiple cities in the continental United States. And yes, they're engaging in strategic deception against the population. Jenny Holbert, the Marine Corps Warfighting Laboratory spokesperson, told the public that, oh, this is the first time we've done something like this. It's very unusual. We've never been in an American city. We've never done urban warfare training in an American city before. Oh, no, just a couple hundred times. With the local police, again, searching houses, searching cars, doing a mock takeover. The Army War College called for foreign troops to occupy the United States back in 1999, and now George Bush has actually done it. That's an article from the CBC. They want hundreds of thousands of foreign UN troops on our streets. You're not for the terrorists, are you? And they want 350+ thousand U.S. troops to, quote, patrol the U.S., to patrol our highways, our neighborhoods, our communities. In total violation of posse comitatus. They admit that they're actually scrapping the law prohibiting troops. Not that it even matters, they're already militarizing our police. Our team was in Swansboro, North Carolina back in 2000. In February of 2002, 2 Special Forces trainees were killed by a sheriff's deputy. You ask why? They were trying to disarm him. They were trying to take over local law enforcement. This is the new type of training that our military are being given to overthrow the civilian government, the elected government, right here in the United States. And shockingly enough, there were actually 2 cases of this in the same week in North Carolina where they were being trained to overthrow the civilian government.
Over to your right also. This looks like a gaggle, Mr. Wright. Get these lines straight. Let's go! Straighten it out! Just to your right! Is your group ready? Sir, yes, sir! Sir, group prepared and ready to go, sir!
Every day in America, militarized SWAT teams kill innocent people, and they're rarely held accountable. More often, they kill their own officers, and still they're not held accountable. What's happening in America? How do they become so militarized? In sports stadiums or aircraft hangars and, quote, shoot old women in order to do so. The Model State Emergency Health Powers Act. Most of the 50 states are now passing it as we make this film. And it is a Adolf Hitler wish list. They talk about how to deal with the millions of dead bodies, how they're going to round us up, how to herd us into compact cities, how to use slave labor at the different federal camps, and how they've already been doing it since 1989 at 12 different Army bases. They just got done classifying that, by the way. You can go to the Army's website and read about it. You see, a lot of things have been going on in the country you didn't hear about. They were busy building FEMA camps and getting you ready to go into them. Then they've got bills like H.R. 2977 where they talk about different mind control systems they have, different ultra-low frequency mind control devices that can make you become sick or even kill you or make you do what's required of you. 2977, an actual federal document, an actual federal bill admitting that they're spraying chemical and biological weapons on us through the use of something called chemical trails that they're adding to jet fuel, especially in military aircraft. And then if you go to law enforcement catalogs like Schomer Tech, the biggest law enforcement military catalog out there in the world, they have the sonic nausea system, the supersonic nausea system, where they brag that police have been using this for years to manipulate and stop political speeches. It can make a whole crowd get sick, and they can't even hear it. Then ABC News reported the Kokomo hum, an entire town of people becoming ill from the ultra-low frequency attack on a mass scale. Now let's see how they're indoctrinating our children, Soviet style.
You can give information without having to give your name.
You guys have all the information that I need.
You guys can get paid for good tips, anywhere from up to $200. You'll sign this card, you'll get one of these membership cards.
Now I have the responsibility of taking care of my school and making sure no kind of crimes are going on during or drug dealers are selling drugs and nobody gets hurt.
By giving them this program,
you get millions of children into the police state system. You condition them to be members of the secret police. You destroy the very fabric of America, and you pay them $200 every time they turn someone in, including members of their family. It's incredibly painful to see how far America's slipped. They've got dozens of different names for these programs, but they're all the same. Wave, Save, Dare. It has nothing to do with drugs. Government ships the drugs in. That's public knowledge. It's about creating a whole generation of government snitches, of secret police, of East German Stasi. They give the children discount credit cards, toys, CD players, sometimes thousands of dollars to turn their parents in for, quote, owning firearms. I've seen the handbooks when firearms aren't even illegal.
On third row, stand up, face me, walk to the door backwards real slow.
More importantly, it's about training your children to be prisoners. They have ID cards to buy their lunches, thumb scan in many cases to get their lunches. We'll cover that later. Men in black uniform point MP5 submachine guns, many times loaded, at their heads and load themselves in a drill onto a bus. But I know what you're thinking. Hey, we all saw what happened at Columbine. We've got to protect our children. We've got to put fences up. We've got to turn them into a prison. We've got to have them searched without warrants. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now come out in court documents, and SWAT team members were caught on tape admitting that they actually shot the children at Columbine. It's been confirmed that at least 6 of the 13 were killed by the SWAT teams.
drop the weapon! Drop the gun! Weapon!
Sadistic predators across the nation get to enjoy abusing, traumatizing children as young as 6 years of age. Men in black uniforms yell and scream and cuss profanities at them that we've had to edit out here as they beg and cry and plead. They're then loaded on the buses and, yes, taken to a local jail. Drug around like filth, like garbage, like criminals. A whole generation learning how to be slaves, learning how to bow down and beg and put their hands behind their head when the ring race, the Dark Lords appear. 54 children died in the year 2000 in high school football accidents. 52 died in school shootings, and many of them died at the hands of SWAT teams. Take Fort Worth, Texas, where Cop of the Year in a SWAT team drill at a school was shot in the head by one of his comrades. Again, these people are shooting their own officers in the head. Again, don't forget in Fort Worth, they shot their own officer in the head at a school. Just a few weeks ago in Detroit, they shot a kid in the face in one of these so-called drills.
So, what's the excuse for much of this police state activity? It's primarily the events of September 11th, 2001. What really happened on September 11th? Who was responsible? Let's find out now. As you watch this shocking video, keep in mind there is documentation to back it up that you can check up on.
Osama bin Laden's code name in the CIA was Tim Osman, that he was a CIA asset trained in the 1970s and used against the Russians in the 1980s in Afghanistan. Then, of course, he helped against the Serbs in the late 1990s. Over and over again, Osama bin Laden has been used as a tool of the U.S. government and its interest. Anytime they need to create a crisis anywhere on the planet, bin Laden comes to their rescue as the fire starter they need to create the crisis so they can offer their solution. Or why didn't he talk about the huge 9/11 truth movement that sprung up right after 9/11, made up of hundreds of the victims' families of September 11th, alleging government involvement in the attacks? Why didn't the film talk about the official U.S. government plan to carry out terror attacks in America and blame it on foreign enemies? Operation Northwoods. It even called for hijacking jets by remote control and crashing them, bombing D.C., committing sniper attacks. No, Michael Moore didn't discuss this. Something ABC News and the Baltimore Sun were willing to do, Michael Moore wouldn't get near. Or did you know that it's admitted fact that public officials, federal, state, and local across the land, were called by the White House in the days before 9/11 and told not to fly to New York on the day of September 11th? Mayor Willie Brown of San Francisco was called by the White House and told, don't fly to New York on the morning of September 11th. He was called September 10th. Why didn't Moore talk about this? John Ashcroft, the Attorney General, just a few weeks before September 11th, stopped flying commercial, citing a hijacker risk. Most shocking of all, the Joint Chiefs of Staff had a scheduled meeting in New York City on September 11th. But the day before, because of a, quote, warning, they canceled their trip to New York City. They even told MSNBC this, but it's still somewhat of a public secret, and Michael Moore isn't talking about it. Author Salman Rushdie was warned by the FAA not to fly to New York on the morning of September 11th as well. It was reported by the Times of London. We have the San Francisco Chronicle, MSNBC, the Associated Press reporting all of this. But still, the average American has been kept in the dark because it's never made the nightly news, and it's certainly never been talked about by Michael Moore. And there was no mention of the fact that NORAD stood down for the first time in its 50-year history. To their credit, something that Michael Moore and the mainstream media did get right was that in the 3 days after September 11, 2001, over 160 members of Osama bin Laden's family were flown out of the country to Saudi Arabia. This at a time when all commercial and private air traffic was grounded by the Pentagon. But that wasn't the only airlift. Seymour Hersh first broke the story at the New Yorker magazine about the airlift of evil. It was then picked up by major publications, but, well, forgotten into the memory hole. At the end of the 3-week-long Afghan war in Afghanistan, 8,000 Taliban and al-Qaeda leaders were loaded on U.S. government C-130s and flown out to Pakistan to safety. It had been their job to stir up the phony crisis in Afghanistan and then give George W. the fake victory. You see, it was a staged war. And this is one of the other big smoking guns of 9/11 government involvement that we're all supposed to forget about. Oh, the government admits they flew him out to safety, but Fox News said it was an accident. Yes, 8,000 Taliban and al-Qaeda cream the leaders being flown out to safety. And top generals were told to release Taliban generals. They were told, let them go. And some of the generals got angry and went public. The FBI has gone public, as well as the CIA. They've even leaked the orders, like W199I, where George Bush ordered them to back off Osama bin Laden and his family. In fact, they even fired some agents that refused to follow their orders. There were red flags everywhere. Everyone knew that the attack was coming. That's why so many public officials didn't go to New York. But months before, there was the Bush administration frustrating the investigations, ordering the agents off the cases, ensuring that the attacks would go forward. Then there were the media reports by respected institutions, backed up by hospital officials at the American hospital in Dubai, Pakistan, of Osama bin Laden meeting with the CIA Middle East section chief for 10 days in July of 2001, months before September 11th. The question is, what was the CIA doing meeting with Osama bin Laden? Getting their story straight? There's been an almost total media blackout on the fact that most of the 9/11 victims' families are angry at the government and believe that they had prior knowledge or were involved. But they couldn't cover it up when families came to New York from the 9/11 Commission and got in Giuliani's face.
Let's ask some real questions. Is that unfair? And what about the bunker? You didn't ask them about the bunker, the Office of Emergency Management bunker on fire?
We are getting ready for the next round.
Remember this. Your government funded and trained Al-Qaeda. Repeat it again. Your government funded and trained Al-Qaeda. 3,000 people murdered does not
we thank you very much for your help, your leadership, and your.
CNN conducted its own poll on Anderson Cooper's program 360. After an hour-long show where he and others demonized members of the 9/11 skeptics movement, they conducted their own poll, and an amazing 90% of respondents out of over 7,000 believe that there was a U.S. government cover-up. MSNBC investigated the hundreds of reports of individuals in the towers being told not to go to work that day or being told to get out early that morning. And they found out that, yes, it was not an urban legend. It was true. They found hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of witnesses. And then the Israeli instant messaging company, Otago, admitted publicly, told Haaretz, one of the biggest papers in Israel, that yes, they got a warning and instant messaged hundreds of their employees in the towers and told them to leave the building 4 hours before the planes slammed into it. This is on the record and cannot be ignored. Students pointed up at the towers and told their school teachers in the weeks before 9/11 that those buildings are about to come down. They're about to be destroyed. And then on top of this, we have the public officials being warned. Total evidence of prior knowledge. And while we were in New York, we talked to dozens of eyewitnesses who had been personally warned themselves, but were afraid to come public. Some have been told to keep their mouths shut. Marvin Bush running security on the complex, and of course his contract, by the way, ended on the morning of 9/11. So that's another interesting facet to all of this. None of it adds up. But guess who ran security on these buildings? Marvin Bush, brother of the president. The architect of the World Trade Center towers, Nomura Yamasaki, told the press many times before 9/11 that he specifically designed the towers to take massive passenger jetliner impacts. The construction and project manager for the World Trade Center complex, Frank DiMartini, told the press multiple times that they designed the towers not to just take one large jetliner impact, but at least two, and not collapse. And other world-renowned engineers and architects went public as well, but that didn't matter for the mainstream media. They simply ignored their protest. Senior firefighter Lou Caccioli, who survived the collapse of the World Trade Centers, reported that bombs were clearly going off inside the structure. He told People magazine this the day after 9/11. When we spoke to him, he said he couldn't talk about it. Professor Van Ramiro, Vice President for Research at New Mexico Institute of Mining and Technology, told the Albuquerque Journal that the implosions of the towers were too mathematical to be a chance result of airplanes, and that only controlled demolitions could have brought the buildings down. Then Kevin Ryan, an executive engineer with Underwriters Laboratories, or UL, that certifies most big buildings in America, went public and said, "It's impossible. Jet fuel wouldn't have melted the columns in Tower 1 and 2. This is from the organization that underwrote the towers. Then Firefighter Engineering, the oldest engineering publication in United States history, went public and said, there's no way jet fuel made that happen. And stop hauling away the debris. Stop covering up the crime scene. We've got 7 different tapes showing different groups of firefighters saying the towers looked like they were brought down by bombs and that they heard explosions. But in the interest of time, here is just one of those clips shot by two French brothers who were making a documentary about New York firefighters on the morning of 9/11.
We came down. It was much worse than it was when we went up. Yeah. Right? We went up and they had everything set up. We came down. It was desolate. It was like, holy.
We came down to the lobby. It was like the first of the wars. There was nobody there. What did we do? We made it outside. We made it about a block.
We made it at least 2 blocks, and we started running. Floor by floor, it started popping out.
It was if they had detonated. They were planning to take down a building. Boom, 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 boom.
NBC's Pat Dawson is close to the scene of that attack. Pat? Pat,
Matt,
can you hear me?
if we are, yes, I can, Matt. Just moments ago, I spoke to the chief of safety for the New York City Fire Department, who was obviously one of the first people here on the scene after those 2 planes were crashed into the side, we assume, of the World Trade Center towers, which used to be behind me over there. Chief Albert Turry told me that he was here just literally 10 or 15 minutes after the events that took place this morning. That is the first crash. He had roughly 10 alarms, roughly 200 men in the building trying to effect rescues of some of those civilians who were in there, and that basically he received word of the possibility of a secondary device, that is another bomb going off. He tried to get his men out as quickly as he could, but he said that there was another explosion which took place, and then an hour after the first hit here, with the first crash that took place, he said, there was another explosion that took place in one of the towers here. So obviously, according to his theory, he thinks that there were actually devices that were planted in the building. The second device he speculates, was probably planted in the building. So that's what we have been told by Albert Turry, who is the chief of safety for the New York City Fire Department. He told me that just moments ago.
And a CBS News chopper in the air over the towers reported the same thing.
If Jim Smith is with us still in chopper 2, Jimmy, you there?
Just we saw some kind of explosion, a lot of smoke come out of the top of the tower, and then it collapsed down onto the streets below, much like we saw the first tower just about a half hour ago.
Chopper 2 as he takes these pictures. Jim?
Yes, I am here, Michael.
Jim, tell us what's happening out there.
Oh my We just witnessed some kind of secondary follow-up explosion on the World Trade Center #2, the one
secondary.
We've all unfortunately seen the famous photos of victims jumping out of Tower 1 and 2. But that happened in the first 15 minutes while the jet fuel was still burning. Later, we have the photographs of the victims standing in the impact holes from the aircraft begging for help for 20 to 30 minutes. How could they survive heat that would melt through giant 4-foot steel girders? The answer is they couldn't. And the firefighters are on record as saying the fires were almost out. The fact is, the temperatures had dropped dramatically. The fires were almost extinguished. The people were in the open wounds in the sides of the buildings begging for help. Help that did come in the form of the valiant firefighters who had the buildings blown up around them. The tape you're about to hear is from the grave, as a valiant firefighter reports that the fires were almost out. And as firefighters went public and said that the fires had almost been extinguished, the federal government ordered them under national security to stop talking to the public and told the media that all the firefighter tapes had malfunctioned, but not before firefighters had rebelled and released segments of tape, a segment you're about to hear.
What do you got up there, Chief? I'm still in Boy Stairway, 74th floor, no smoke or fire problem. The walls are breached, so be careful. Yeah, 10-4, I saw that on 68. Freddie, come on over. Freddie, come on over by us. Guys, we got... Hey, Ryder, 1-5. We got police, isolated pockets of fire. We should be able to knock it down with 2 lines. Where you know that? 78th floor, numbers 1045, call one. What scared you in, Mario?
Seconds before the towers collapsed, blast points could be seen springing up down the sides of the buildings from the top down. Within days of 9/11, Bush and his minions began grandstanding at Ground Zero, telling us, give up your liberties and we'll protect you. Go along with our invasion of the world and everything will be okay.
Mr. Daskam,
What we need right now is a clear message to the people of this country. This message must be read in every newspaper, heard on every radio, seen on every television. This message must resound throughout the entire interlink. I want this country to realize that we stand on the edge of oblivion. I want every man, woman, and child to understand how close we are to chaos. I want everyone to remember why they need us.
In the former United States, civil war continues to devastate the Midwest.
Scientists attribute this latest water shortage to the lack of rainfall the last 2 years. Ministry officials expect water coupon prices to rise.
Police have arrested 9 suspects.
What you witnessed on this video was the manifestation of a police state in your own country. The documented evidence you saw was about crimes that had been committed by government. Then, the major excuse for this police state, 9/11, was shown to be a fraud. Regarding 9/11, remember earlier I explained what both conspiracy is and what theory is? Well, many pieces of a puzzle all fitting together to form a picture, which you only saw a small portion of in this video. When those pieces are mostly hard evidence and they form one picture, then it's not conspiracy theory. It is conspiracy fact. The fact is, 9/11 was an inside job, and elements of the U.S. government did it. Why did they do it? It's obvious from their own writing and actions since 2001 that 9/11 occurred as a pretext for war and to turn America into a Nazi-style police state and dictatorship. There's more information about the police state and about 9/11. Go to SciCouncil.com and click at Save the County. Now I'm going to tell you about the New World Order, the existence of which is not a conspiracy theory. The writings and actions of the people who run this global dictatorship are proven fact. This group of powerful people have taken over one country after another, either by infiltrating their governments or with military power. Their ownership of the United States of America is nearly complete. They have overtaken the minds of many Americans through the media, educational systems, and churches. Fortunately, many of those who had been in a trance have woken up to the truth. That awakening, I believe, has caused the globalists to put off plans for terrorist attacks in the U.S. The spread of the truth is what keeps us safe and free. It's important that the globalists know that the number of people who now want a free country is high and growing rapidly. It's essential that the people of Huerfano County stand tall and proclaim themselves to be free, as other counties and states have done. See SciCouncil.com and click that Save the County to see what you can do. Coming up now is a small portion of the video, Terror Storm. It shows how people's minds are manipulated, and it gives us examples of government-sponsored terrorism in a number of countries. The complete video is viewable, free, online at SciCouncil.com. Click at TV News Lies versus Truth.
9/11 was just one salvo in an ongoing war against the free peoples of the planet. It's all part of their terror storm. Pentagon war planners now publicly admit
that 90% of their battle plans are psychological versus physical. The information war has taken the place of aircraft carriers, fighter bombers, and Abrams M1A tanks. And you, the population of the planet, are the target. Put simply, modern warfare is all about selling the population to love its own enslavement. The elite are waging war on the people. Edward L. Bernays is regarded by many as the father of public relations. He was born in Vienna, Austria. Bernays was the nephew of Sigmund Freud. Bernays pioneered the use of psychology and other social sciences to design public persuasion campaigns. He published several scholarly works, still used in universities worldwide today. On page 71 of his book Propaganda, Bernays wrote, "If we understand the mechanisms and motives of the group mind, is it not possible to control and regiment the masses according to our will without their knowing about it?" Bernays literally wrote the book on modern propaganda. His clients included Procter & Gamble, CBS Television, the United Fruit Company, the American Tobacco Company, General Electric, Dodge Motors, and he also spearheaded the national campaign to fluoridate the water supply of America through the fluoridationists.
You saw the 9/11 info on this video from Martial Law and about the police state from Road to Tyranny. Any of the 3 videos can be purchased by calling 888-253-3139. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray, and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, and will forgive their sin, and will heal their land. The God who created the universe punishes nations when they are wicked, and he blesses them when they turn to him. This is a wicked nation. When it wasn't, and many worship God, this land was blessed. To turn to him as an individual, keep in mind that Jesus said, "I am the way." John 3:18. He that believeth on him is not condemned, but he that believeth not is condemned already, because he hath not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. Romans 3:23. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Though all people have sinned, this nation has gone beyond mere sin. Most of the churches are telling people lies. People kill their unborn children by the millions. Promiscuity and adultery are rampant. I've just scratched the surface here. So it's no wonder this land needs the healing hand of Almighty God before the dark pit of hell chokes off its life. Back to you as an individual. You've sinned. Jesus Christ died for your sins, rose from the grave, and ascended to heaven. He was the sacrificial Lamb of God. God offers you salvation from the penalty and the power of sin. The penalty of sin is spiritual death for now and eternity. However, he that hath the Son hath life. Without that life, you are a walking dead person. You must repent of sin, receive Jesus, and turn your life over to him completely. Then you are cleansed and free. Mere belief doesn't free you. Doing good works doesn't save you. Going to church doesn't save you. Jesus said, John 3:7, ye must be born again. Then the Spirit of God dwells inside you, and if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. At no time in history has Satan's people been this close to a complete takeover of the entire earth. Revelation 13:7 and 8 describes this beast who has power over all kindreds and tongues and nations. Other prophecies now showing fruition can be seen at SciCouncil.com. Click at End Time. Police, military, politicians, and people with a few $1 million, you are not one of them. No, you are not part of the New World Order, and you never can be. The New World Order leaders at the top are evil and ruthless. Throughout history, they have killed those who served them when they were no longer needed. They have confiscated the wealth of millionaires. They spit on your wealth. The New World Order is, to a great extent, in control of the United States of America. There are good police, good military personnel, and many of you, brother and sister soldiers, police, and sheriffs, are becoming informed and standing up to this evil. I urge you to contact the organization shown on your screen. Find out about the publications available, and stay in touch with the retired police officer, Jack McLam. At home or in the library, go to SciCouncil.com. Click at Save the County. There is no rapture to take you away before Armageddon. That's a church lie. Another lie is that Christians are not supposed to get involved in politics.
America's in trouble, our country's lost its way. The American dream is only seen when you look to yesterday. Politicians, we've got plenty, and we've heard what they all say. It's time we found some statesmen who won't look the other way. Republicans and Democrats have brought us where we stand. Their deceit and immorality has spread throughout the land. Corruption's now accepted, from the truth they turn away. And Americans now understand how they were led astray. America is rising to the challenge. The restoration now is underway. Her people will forever stand for freedom. No, she'll never let them take her rights away. The major party candidates will never breathe a word of the issues we are raising, 'cause they just don't want them heard. No, they won't debate these issues. No, they don't want you to hear, because honesty, integrity, and truth is what they fear. They legitimize their blunder, and they called it IRS. The Federal Reserve we can easily repossess. The executive orders, everyone can be repealed if we stand behind our Constitution, strong as stone and steel. America is rising to the challenge. The restoration now is underway. Her people will forever stand for freedom. No, we'll never let them take our rights away. If America is honest,